Hello, welcome to the Nerdy Media Inc. Podcast. My name is Edward. I'm the owner of Nerdy Media Inc. We're based here in Los Angeles, California, and we work in the areas of digital marketing, payment processing, and application/web development. So if you ever need any help in those areas, feel free to reach out to us at nerdymedia.net. Today's podcast is about payment processing. Payment processing is the last step in the sales funnel when it comes to websites. Now, payment processing is very important. There's various different elements to payment processing. There's various different third-party offerings, and there's various ways to integrate them. Some third-party offers forms where you can redirect your traffic, your payment processing to their page. There's also processors that allow you to use their API where you can set up the billing form on your page and things like that. So in today's podcast, we're going to talk about this part of the funnel, which is, to me, the most important part of the funnel. A lot of times when I deal with clients, sometimes they don't even have payment processing. We come in and we help them integrate things like that, link them to third parties, or help them get a merchant account with the bank. Or sometimes we come in and the client already has a payment processing set up, and they're just wondering, why am I not getting these sales through? What is the problem? What are some of the things that are going on? So today we're going to talk about, just a little bit of a general overview of payment processing, what to look out for, what may be good in your case scenario. And I want to explain this. There are different case scenarios where things are different. In certain situations, you may or may not need a third-party service, or you may not want to work with that third-party service. You may need another third-party service. So let me talk about some of the third-party services that are out there. One of the biggest is Stripe. Very well known, very to integrate. A lot of times you'll see Stripe already in a lot of web applications and things like that. Behind Stripe, you have PayPal. PayPal, some people may know, they have their goods and their bads when it comes to payment processing, but they're a legit option when it comes to payment processing. Now, there are some other payment processors that allows customers to get a credit with them, and those payment processors are, just as good. And what these payment processors do, if you have a product that, someone can't pay right, it may be thousands of dollars, and that person may want to pay for that product over time. And so these services offers credits to people to buy your product. And basically, by offering that credit, not only is there a transaction fee, but they're also making interest off the customer that is buying the product as well. So those are other payment processors. And depending on your product, you may need one of those types of processors. It depends on the product, the price, and things like that. And then, getting a direct merchant account with the bank. Not everyone can do that. And a lot of times too, you may have to be established for a little while. You may have to, work with other third-party payment processors, get a little bit of a payment history before you're able to get a direct bank merchant account. Now, when you get one of those, it's usually pretty good. There's some application development that is involved. Some fraud protection that you may have to integrate to kind of protect yourself and your business. The one thing that can mess up your business is a lot of chargebacks, and things of that nature, a lot of refunds, and things like that, that the bank sees as risky, and they may, shut down your merchant account. So you have to be aware of things like that. And that's one thing that I like to tell my customers, like, there's things that you can do to make it easy for customers to get through the payment processing. You can set this up, things like modals, widgets, to make it easier for the customer to get through the payment processing. But you also got to understand, do you really want that customer coming through the payment processing? Because if it's that easy, that customer, it may be really easy for them to just go to their bank's chargeback, and that can cause real big problems for you later on down the road. But yeah, let's talk about widgets and modals. So if you guys are not familiar, widgets, modals are, these little pop-ups, right? You can have them for logins, you can have them for signups. You can also have them for billing, where customers can input their credit card information. And these things are very helpful. When I talk to customers, I always compare it to the drive-through window at your favorite fast food restaurant, right? A lot of people don't like to park the car, get out the car, go into the restaurant, then pay, and then wait in the restaurant with other people to get their food. Now, widgets and modals kind of act like that drive-through, where it gets you through really fast, comfortable. You may be on the page that you saw the product on. You can still see the product in the background a little bit, but you're inputting your information into that modal or widget, and sending that information to the payment processor. These widgets and modals are really good, and they can serve, especially in industries that you need to make it easy on to get the customer through. These can serve as a very good way to get customers to add their payment processing. And I've implemented many of these. The one thing about implementing these modals and widgets is you have to implement some conditions, right? Conditions, logic. This kind of helps the system know when to showcase these kind of things. For instance, if you're building a website and someone may be browsing around, you may not want to just pop up a payment widget in their face without them engaging in something that would cause for them to want to add their credit card. You'll see this a lot in subscription sites, pay-per-view sites, and things like that, where you want the customer to add that credit card and get on with the payment processing and start to view more of the content on the site. These widgets are very handy when it comes to those sites, and they could be for various different sites. A lot of times with e-commerce sites, basically you would probably have that payment window widget pop up when the person is ready to view their cart and check out. When a person is ready to check out, that means they're going to that final stage where they're ready to, put in their information, get their product, or get their order made and get the product shipped to them. So these widgets, instead of taking them, redirecting them to another page, will just pop up that window. And if that customer is already logged in, they don't have to put in certain information. They don't have to put in, their name, their email address, because they logged into your site. You already have that information in the database. Basically, you could just have the bare minimum of what you require. And we'll talk about the bare minimum too when it comes to other things. And that, when I mean by bare minimum, I mean like address, zip code, country, and things like that. So these widgets, like I said, they can be really good. Now, they could be a problem. And I've seen this before where customers, clients have made it so easy that the person can put in their payment credit cards, especially on sites looking at the demographics, when we looked at the marketing, a lot of times these sites, they had younger people on their sites, and these younger people are, they just see chargebacks as just so easy to do. So they're just, when they come back and they see their credit card and they're like, oh, I got a $30 charge. Well, let me just call my bank and let me just charge that back. So you don't want that happening. You want the customer to be able to go from, point A to point B easily, but you also want them to kind of want the product too as well. You don't want to just get a person in there that, they feel like they've been tricked. Yeah, they're going to probably go back to their bank and be like, hey, I didn't make this payment, and charge it back. The other reason too is to make sure that the customer know who the company that is charging them. A lot of times when you have a brand, your company name is different from your brand. So just note how your payment processing will show up on that customer's credit card. Because they may be expecting your brand to show up on the credit card statement, but it's actually the name of your corporation. So make sure you have, text, terms and conditions that they can check off, to know that, when they look at their billing statement, that they're being charged by your company. And we call this friendly chargebacks, or sometimes people call it friendly fraud. And that's just because the customer didn't know and they charged it back because they didn't know the name of your company. So don't think that all chargebacks are intentional as well. But yeah, having just those little things that you may kind of overlook can cause problems in the future. And like I said, when the banks look at the ratio of chargebacks or percentage of chargebacks, that could affect your merchant account and also, get you shut down. Once you can't bill, that's usually a lot of problems coming down the road, right? If you can't charge a person's credit card, things like that happens. Now, the other thing nowadays is, when it comes to payment processing, is offering crypto payment processing. So for me, so far, I've worked with a few of the crypto payment processing. One company that comes to mind is Rocket Fuel Blockchain. I work with them for payment processing. There's other companies, you can do it yourself. There's software out there for you to integrate that you can actually set it up and you can start to process Bitcoin. I've done that as well. And having just multiple options gives you gives satisfaction to a lot of your customers. It gives you a lot of options. And the one thing about Bitcoin is you can't charge that back, right? So once that transaction happens, you don't even have to worry about chargebacks anymore. So that's the good thing about cryptocurrency when doing payment processing. But you have to understand, the majority of people are going to use credit cards. And I have to tell people this. Yes, it's good to opt for crypto, but the majority of people, they're going to use credit cards. And they know to use credit cards because they know that their credit card company is going to protect them. Customers run into fraud issues all the time. I had a friend recently that had their, credit card, hacked, and somebody charged so much money on there, and they called their credit card company, and right away the credit card company got the money back. So, online transactions, they may want to do them, but they have to use the safer mean, which is credit card transactions. And the good thing about, credit cards is, you can store that information, charge it later if you have a subscription type service, recurring transaction type service, and things like that. Now, when it comes to that, one thing, when you're running a subscription site, you have to sometimes, look at the chargeback ratio, look at the risk of the customer, and also offer what is called a refund instead of having a chargeback. Sometimes we will get a heads up. We use these third-party services that says, hey, this customer is going to charge back. They're a higher risk of charging back. You're better off refunding the money. Sometimes, too, you can also just cancel the subscription and keep the funds. But those two options, you definitely want to have them in the bag. And you also, too, when you're making a site like that, when you're making any type of reoccurring type site, which is now the law nowadays, you have to make it easier for the customer to cancel that service. Putting a button in their, profile area where they could, easily access it. They know how to cancel their service or even renew their service. You want to have both. You want to have that changing button to know, hey, well, they're active right now, so we have a cancellation button just in case they want to cancel. And now that they've canceled, we have a renewal button just in case they want to turn it back on now. You see that a lot in sites like Hulu, Paramount Plus, and things like that, and it's very helpful. Sometimes with those subscriptions, I do cancel for a couple months, but then next thing you know, they got a great new show or they got a great new movie coming on there, and it's just like, oh, that's a really good value. I go into my account, I just click that renew button, and now they've generated more revenue with just an easy button. So one thing about that is they know that I'm one of those customers that don't charge back. They have all this data on me, and it's really great. And a lot of times you'll see upsells from those services as well. So, and payment processing is all mixed into that. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about the funnel. You may get to that one step of the funnel where they put in their credit card, and then that upsell just brings you to the next level, and generates way more money for your site. But like I said, payment processing is the end of the funnel. Now, in another episode, we'll talk about traffic, which is the beginning of the funnel, and we'll start to talk about, products and funneling people through to get them to the end. But payment processing is definitely the end, and you definitely want to have that settled. The one thing, what I talked about in the beginning is I've come in and I've seen, clients that have worked with the wrong payment processor. And a lot of times they work with these payment processors, and because they're giving them a low percentage, I've heard like ridiculously low percentages, but they can't process that much. It's because this service has all these parameters around it, all these like velocity spin parameters that are causing problems with their site. And I tell this to the client. I say, yeah, you're kind of just looking at the percentage that kind of got you in there, but you didn't see all of these other problems that are on the back end that are going to slow up the transaction for your customers. So would you rather take, give up, 1% here and only get 10 sales, or give up 3% here and get 100, probably 1,000 sales? So, you have to think about that before you start to integrate. And integrating the process is not easy. Now, let's talk about just a little bit. I don't want to go into too much detail because this could get very technical. If you were to get your own merchant account, one thing that you have to be is what is called PCI compliant. And I won't go into too many details, but there's certain levels to PCI compliant, depending on if you're going to store the credit card information yourself, which I would. If you're a small business to medium-sized business, I would advise against that. Whether you're tokenizing the information and sending it off to a third party, just various things. So PCI compliance, just remember, if you try to get your own merchant account, which is really good, and your percentage is low, just note there's a lot of technical aspect to getting that, to maintaining that account effectively, being compliant with the bank, and then also on top of that, building in all of the fraud protection, risk evaluation kind of systems that go along with getting your merchant account. But like I said, it's not a bad option. And as you grow your business, you're going to start to look at, getting that type of thing. I always tell people, start with a third party, right? They have all of that stuff kind of built in. You can work with them, build up your history. Then you work your way up to getting your own merchant account. And once you get your own merchant account, you kind of set, as long as you keep everything copacetic. You don't have a high chargeback ratio. A lot of refunds. They look at refunds nowadays. Banks used to not look at refunds that much, but they do look at it because it could turn into something a lot different, right? It could turn into chargebacks, and that causes problems. And you don't want chargeback because you get hit with that extra fee for every chargeback. And let me talk just a little bit about chargebacks since I said that. With chargebacks, I've seen customers, the way you process a payment. Sometimes I've seen customers wanting to, have customers pay $5, and then the product is like $30, right? One of the products is like $30, and I'm like, well, if that person charges $5 here, $5, $5, $5, and they charge it back, that's basically 5 chargebacks instead of you charging them the whole $30 in the beginning. That's 1 chargeback. So you have to be aware of how chargebacks are recorded, because that's very important. A lot of people don't know that basically if you have a person doing multiple transactions and then they charge back all of those transactions at once, that counts as 5. Instead of just charging them a large amount, especially if it's a wallet system, charging them a large amount and then having it go from there, which would be 1 chargeback. And that would look a lot better on your record. There's other little things to mitigate chargeback. I won't give you the secret sauce to everything, but that's one of the things I want you guys to be aware of when it comes to payment processing. But like I said, we are here to help our clients move forward, and do these things in a more effective way. And each industry is different. I don't advise people to just go online and look at how someone else has done stuff and thinking that is going to apply to your business, because it's not. Your payment processing may look totally different from this e-commerce site to this e-commerce site because, pricing, your traffic, which is the beginning of the funnel, may be looking different, and your customers may like, different options that is opposed to other sites. So just be mindful of that when you're developing your site or writing out your business plan for your site, because that is something important to know. But thank you guys for tuning in to my podcast today. Again, my name is Edward. I'm the owner of Nerdy Media Inc., based here in Los Angeles, California. And if you guys want to reach out to me, go to our page on nerdymedia.net and go to our contact form. Put in your information, and I or someone else will reach out to you and see if we can start to work together. So we work in the areas of web application development, payment processing, and digital marketing, which includes ad services, SEO, and things like that. Again, have a good day. Thank you.